I'm sure you've heard the definition of insanity, right? Like not the official Webster's one, but the one that people tend to kind of bounce around. It's continuing to do the same thing and somehow expecting different results. Well, that goes for pretty much every aspect of life. If you want something to change, you have to make changes. Pretty simple, seems, right? But what happens if you don't change? What happens if you continue down the path that you're on? To kick off this brand new podcast, I want to spur some thought and consideration so that we can jumpstart our health and make sure that we're not finding ourselves 10 years down the road looking back thinking, nothing changed. And look where I am now. So that's the topic for today's podcast, the very first episode of If Mama Ain't Healthy, Ain't Nobody Healthy. Come on, go with me. Let's jump in. Hey, Mama, you have found your way home. This is If Mama Ain't Healthy, Ain't Nobody Healthy, and I'm your host, Lori Morris. I'm a Christian wife, mom, and midwife, and I'm so glad you're finally here. I know you're tired of feeling bounced around the system, never feeling heard or understood, and you're sick and tired of feeling sick and stuck. Whether you're trying to conceive, pregnant, or in the months and years after pregnancy, I want you to know I'm here to help you find your way out of confusion and into true wellness by working with God's beautiful design, not against it. From your physical health to your emotional and spiritual health, there is no topic off limits as we walk together through all seasons of motherhood. So if you're ready to step out of the world's way and into God's way of living well and loving life, take a short break from changing diapers and cleaning the kitchen again for the third time today and sit a spell with me. What you learn today could change generations. It's review time. Yes, in this brand new podcast, we're still going to do reviews because I want you to know how much your feedback means to me. It encourages me, it breathes life into this podcast, and it helps me find other mamas like you who need this information. Today's review comes from, I should have made this bigger so my eyes could see it, Annika, I think it says. I usually enlarge the little clip of the review I put in my notes, and I didn't do it this time. I can't see it, sorry. Anyway, it says, learning so much. I have been learning so much about birthing and pregnancy through Lori's podcast. This is my first pregnancy, and I really wasn't sure how to prepare. I'm so happy I found such rich information from a Christian perspective. Thank you so much for that review. That's exactly why I'm here. And now, as we grow into this new, bigger umbrella of a podcast, I hope that you'll not only learn more about your pregnancy and how to walk that road, but just the health journey after pregnancy is over. I'm just so excited about this. And so today, what we're going to focus on is just needed changes because so many of us put things off. We don't prioritize our own health because we don't have time to, right? But as the title says, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And when I was putting this together and starting to kind of sketch out the ideas, the story of Saul, who became Paul in the New Testament, really came to the forefront of my mind because there's really no one who changed more than Paul did, right? Or Saul to start with. He went from persecuting Christians to being one of the most influential Christians that ever lived. And I'm going to read to you just a little bit of this story because I don't want to try to rehash it all on my own and try to remember and get it correct. I want you to hear from Scripture what happened, okay? This comes from Acts chapter 9, okay? And I'm reading from the New King James Version. Acts chapter 9 reads, Then Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked letters from him to the synagogues of Damascus, so that if he found any who were of the way is Christianity, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. So this is how this picture starts, right? Saul doing what Saul did, threatening, murdering, dealing with people, okay? He did not like Christians and he was persecuting them. So verse 3 says, as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, Who are you, Lord? He knew who he was. Then the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. So he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? Then the Lord said to him, Arise and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. And the men who journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice but seeing no one. Then Saul arose from the ground, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no one. But they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus, and he was 3 days without sight and neither ate nor drank. Okay, so he has been basically knocked down by God, right? He has had his senses awakened, shall we say. Okay, he was doing one thing that was very much not right, and God has gotten his attention. All right, verse 10. Now there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias. And to him the Lord said in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Here I am, Lord. So the Lord said to him, Arise and go to the street called Straight, and inquire at the house of Judas for one called Saul of Tarsus. For behold, he is praying. And in a vision he has seen a man named Ananias coming in and putting his hand on him so that he might receive his sight. Ananias isn't so sure about that. It says, Then Ananias answered, Lord, I've heard from many about this man, how much harm he has done to your saints in Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priest to bind all who call on your name. But the Lord said to him, Go, for he is a chosen vessel of mine to bear my name before Gentiles, kings, and the children of Israel. For I will show him how many things he must suffer for my name's sake. And Ananias went his way and entered the house. And laying his hands on him, he said, Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road as you came, has sent me that you may receive your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Immediately there fell from his eyes something like scales, and he received his sight at once. And he arose and was baptized. So when he had received food and he was strengthened, when he had received food, he was strengthened. Then Saul spent some days with the disciples at Damascus. Immediately he preached the Christ in the synagogues, that he is the Son of God. So in that short 20 verses, Saul went from persecuting Christians to having himself awakened by God, whether he wanted to or not, to then having his eyes opened, deciding to follow Christ, putting on Christ in baptism, and then preaching God immediately, preaching that Christ was the Son of God immediately. Now, am I saying this is the kind of change that you're going to need to undergo? No, not at all. What I'm saying is Saul did not want to change. He thought he was good where he was. He was happy with where he was. He thought what he was doing was right. And God made it clear that what he was doing wasn't right. And he forced him, essentially, to make some changes. Now, let's bring this back to ourselves. How many of us, as you're sitting here listening right now, are kind of happy where you're at? And maybe you kind of are just content, and you would rather kind of stay there than do the hard things. Saul was called to do the hard things. Like it said, he was going to suffer many things for Christ. We can choose to stay in the contentment of the American culture with lack of health. We can pick that. But if we pick that, if nothing changes, nothing is going to change. And these little things that you might be dealing with in your health, little things here and there that you think are not all that big of a deal, but you kind of wonder why you're dealing with them, they're not going to go away. It is time for us as Christian women to get busy getting our bodies to the health that God designed us to have. He did not design us to be sick all the time. He did not put us in this world to be so sick that all of our resources that we could be using for Him and all of our time that we could be using for Him are put into medications that we're having to take because we're so unhealthy, or doctor's visits that we're having to make because we're sick all the time. Okay? We are not able to work for Him when we are always sick. We are not able to be effective for Him when we are always sick. Okay? And by sick, I don't necessarily mean like you're down on the couch, can't get up. I mean just not feeling good, not having the energy to do the things that you know need to be done. You may be listening to this episode and you might even be a little mad at me because now this podcast is no longer just a pregnancy show. You're kind of a little mad about it because you kind of liked all the pregnancy stuff and you're kind of like, I don't really want to do the whole health thing. You might be mad at me. You might be thinking, yeah. More health advice I'm just going to fail at. You might think that nothing that you're going to do is going to make any difference at all. You've maybe tried a lot of things and nothing seemed to have worked. So why is this any different? Surely, after 146 episodes about pregnancy and hearing stories of mamas who had the birth that they dreamed of God's way, surely you know that change does matter. That mamas have learned things in this podcast that have made a difference, that have caused them to have a different story. Had they not taken the initiative to make some changes, some hard changes, they would have had the same old traumatic birth story that most women have these days. But instead, they told themselves, if nothing changes, and they got busy. And I'm here today to tell you that that same attitude shift can and will change your health and wellness if you will allow it to. But I know you've felt disillusioned for far, far, far too long, and you're probably pretty discouraged. You've probably been bounced around from doctor to doctor, no matter what you've had going on, no matter what the situation. One doctor sees you and they say, well, you need to see this doctor and you need this specialist, or I don't do this, but this person does. And it's just getting bounced around, having to tell the same story, and nobody's actually listening to the story. Or maybe if it wasn't you getting bounced around, maybe it was your parents or your grandparents as they started facing health issues in their latter years, or maybe your kids. You've seen what it looks like. You know what I'm talking about. And you've seen what happens if you continue down that same road as everybody else, right? You've seen that. You've seen how many people are dying miserable. You've seen how many people can't embrace life or enjoy their latter years because they are dealing with the consequences of their decisions for the last 20, 30, 40 years. If nothing changes, you can fully expect you either already have a chronic situation that you don't maybe know about yet, or that you will soon. How can I say that so confidently? Because 93% of Americans have metabolic dysfunction. And that metabolic dysfunction is causing any number of chronic diagnoses. And they really don't think that that's related. They think that their problem is just that diagnosis. Almost nobody actually truly knows that their condition actually can almost invariably be reversed when you address the underlying issue of the metabolic dysfunction, which comes from our day-to-day choices, believe it or not. And when you make changes that impact those day-to-day choices, those changes actually can have real results. The changes you've been making maybe haven't made real results, but that's probably because those changes weren't actually addressing the underlying root cause. That likely means, yes, you that are listening right now, your issue, whatever it is that you're dealing with, it can likely be reversed. Or maybe if you're not there yet, maybe you don't have any diagnoses yet, but maybe you know that you're headed there fast. Maybe you know you ought to be doing better. You can stop this and you can change direction today. Up until now, you've probably felt alone and like you had to do it all on your own, but that changes with this podcast. That changes now. You've now got an advocate, whether you've been trying to get pregnant, whether you're already pregnant, or whether it's been years since you were pregnant. You can make changes that will matter, and you now have an advocate in your corner from a faith-based Christian perspective to help you understand how God made your body to work and how when you work with that, your body can be well. So right now, I'm going to give you 3 things that you need to do today to get ready for this journey, okay? Because you are going to want to make some changes. You're going to want to feel good. You want to be able to serve God well. You want to be able to serve your family well. You can't do that when you feel like garbage. So 3 things you need to do today to get ready for this journey. Number 1, stop saying you can't. Stop it. Stop saying that you can't. Your brain hears you say that and it starts to affirm it. When your brain hears you say, it's not going to work for me, you know what it does? It starts looking for all the reasons that it sees around you to back up that affirmation. It looks for evidence to prove that, yes, you're right, because your brain wants you to feel like you're good, like you're right. So your brain hears you say, I can't do that, and it looks for reasons to prove that that is true. Your brain will see every excuse possible to coddle you in that warm, fuzzy spot of unwellness so that you're able to stay there, so that you feel good about yourself in your sickness. It won't tell you that that warm fuzziness you're feeling is deep-seated inflammation, that it's making you sick on multiple levels. It won't tell you that. It'll just say, yep, you're right. You can't do it. Just, you're good. It's not that big a deal. It really doesn't want you to know that. It just wants to keep you where you are because it's easy. And it avoids disappointment and it avoids failure and these feelings like, it doesn't matter what I do, nothing works. It wants to avoid that. It doesn't want to go back there. It doesn't want to do the hard. It wants to do the easy, the warm, fuzzy, inflamed easy. Now think about what I just said. This line of thought is a tool of the enemy to keep you sick and to keep you stuck. You have to recognize him. You have to call him out and put him in his place. The devil is not a little red creature with horns and pitchforks. He don't show up like that. That's something that's made up. No, the devil is our enemy, and he shows up in all kinds of ways, disguised in all kinds of ways, so that you don't really fully appreciate who he is or what he's there to do. But he is there to discourage you and to keep you where you are, far away from God, because you're so busy going to the doctor and taking medications and being sick all the time that you don't have time to spend in the Word. You don't have time to go to ladies' Bible class. You don't have time to write that card of encouragement to your sister who's going through a hard time. You don't have time to do any of the things that we're called as Christian women to do because you're too busy dealing with your sickness. And that keeps you from doing the Lord's work the way he called you to do it. Stop saying that you can't, and stop letting your mind hear that it's not possible. Okay, I just fussed at you a little bit. I know that. You probably feel like your mom done got on your case, right? That's good. You need some fussing. I don't want you to stay comfortable in your sickness. I want you to get better. So instead of saying, I can't do it, number 2, I want you to start saying you can, because it works the same way. When your brain hears you say, I can do this, it starts looking for evidence to support that too. It's the same thing. You're just playing 2 different sides of it. So when your brain hears you say, I can do this, I'm going to make some changes, it starts looking for things around it or that are evidence that, yeah, you can make this happen. It looks for reasons why the old ways didn't work. And rather than reaffirming they're going to happen again, it diligently seeks out reasons that this time is different. This time it's going to go better. This time is something that's going to work. It looks for reasons that you can make these changes this time. And this time will be different because you have a different kind of support you haven't had before. Support is vital, and having me here is going to be a constant weekly reminder, or maybe even more often if you follow me on Instagram or you're in the Facebook group, that you are not alone. Others have the exact thing have done the exact thing that you're trying to do before you did it, and they were successful, and they probably had a laundry list of all the times that they had tried it before and it hadn't worked for them too. But then they finally figured it out and they finally got it done. And even though they failed before, they're really doing it this time, and you can too. But you can't stop there. Yes, positive thinking is very powerful, and it's the essential first step without a doubt. But it's not enough by itself. It needs its buddy, action. These 2 go together. Positive thinking and action are what it's going to take. And I'm going to give you some actionable steps to take. So, moving on to number 3. When you hear new ideas on this podcast and new suggestions, I want you to be open. I don't want you to automatically say, I've done that before, it won't work. You don't know that this isn't going to have a different perspective that makes something more doable. It might be something unlike anything you've ever heard. It may push you to do something you've never done, and you might not want to do it because it might not be comfortable. But we don't grow in places of comfort. Growth happens outside the comfort zone. You know, when you go to the store and you buy a packet of seeds, those seeds are comfortable in that little seed envelope, right? They're cool. They ain't got to do much of nothing. They're just hanging out, right? But when you take that seed out of that packet and it gets put in dark, moist soil and it is left to die, because it basically has to die, time and the right support all of a sudden caused that seed to burst open for good. Not burst open like it actually died and just, it was all over for it. No, it burst open. And what was there before, that empty shell, is no longer there. Because inside that tiny seed, a beautiful new plant begins to grow in its place, and it shows growth that seed did not even know was possible. That growth was not comfortable. That process was not comfortable. That seed packet, or maybe the blossom of the seed or of the plant that grew the seeds on it before it made it to a packet, that was comfortable. The seeds just wanted to stay there. But that was not what God intended for them. That seed was made to give growth to more plants. And you are not made to just sit there dormant. You need to grow. And to grow, you've got to get uncomfortable. You've got to get in the conditions that are going to spur on that growth. That seed had to get into that dark, moist soil and have the right kind of heat applied so that it could grow that new plant. And for you to grow into the Christian woman that God wants you to be, you've got to get out of this comfortable place of sickness and inflammation and metabolic dysfunction so that your brain and your body can function the way God designed them to function. Our culture works against that on every level. And I'm going to help you learn how it attacks, how the culture attacks, and how you can undo it. If you will trust me and go with me and not automatically say, that's not going to work, you will see change in your life beyond what you really thought was possible. You may be sitting there thinking right now that, this is my diagnosis. It's chronic. They told me I can't get any better. They told me it can't change. And I'm here to tell you, almost invariably, they're wrong. If you will get out of that place of comfort and get into a place of growth, you're going to see change. You've got to be open to knowing that you might need to do some things that you don't want to do to get the growth that you need, that God wants you to have, that you want to have. You just maybe don't really know what to do. Remember, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I'm not saying it's hard necessarily, but I'm saying that it takes the right work, which I'm going to help you to find. Change is not comfortable. It brings growth. And when it's right, when the right changes happen, the growth comes and you see that there is a better way. And that's what I want to help you see in this podcast. I call it, if mama ain't healthy, ain't nobody healthy, off the phrase, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. If you are not healthy, your family is not going to be healthy. If you are not healthy, your husband is not going to be healthy. If you are not healthy, your children are not going to be healthy, because it all stems from mama. And mama, I'm going to help you get better. Okay? I want you to stick with me. If you're pregnant, if you're not pregnant, if you want to get pregnant, all of you, I'm talking to you right now as Christian mamas. This is the day that we're going to turn the ship around. Okay? Stick with me. Now I'm going to give you some homework. See, now I'm your mama that fussed at you to start with, and now I'm giving you work to do. That's okay. Because if you don't do something, if you don't take that action and put it within positive thoughts, nothing's going to change. So I want you right now, or maybe tonight when you get home, I want you to take about 5 minutes and think about what you're tired of in your health. What are you tired of happening in your home when it comes to food choices? What are you tired of dealing with month after month? What are you tired of? Write them down. 5 things. Did I say 5 things to start with? I think I said take 5 minutes and write things down, but try to get at least 5 things. You probably got more. Write those down. You can even email them to me if you want to, or send them to me on Instagram in a DM if you want to have that accountability to know that somebody knows them and somebody's going to be wanting to know how you're doing with them. I might even read a few on the podcast next week if I get any sent to me, but I won't include your name, so you don't have to worry about that unless you ask me to. If you say, hey, yeah, you can say who I am, I will. But otherwise, I won't include your name. I just want everybody out there to know you're not alone. Because I guarantee you, those of you who take the time to send them to me, there's going to be common threads. And when you see that you're not the only one dealing with it and you're not the only one going through this, you're going to see that this can be done because you're going to go through it with other mamas just like you. And there's going to be opportunities for you to have that camaraderie in that sisterhood. All right. Know that if you're struggling with something, someone else is too. And hearing you say it, if you will take the time to send these to me, it's going to help someone else know that they're not alone too. This is day one. This is step one on your way to the you that you know you can be and that God already sees. So go do your homework and meet me back here next week, and we're going to get to work. If you were blessed by today's episode, please take a minute to share it with another mama friend you know needs this info, or post a screenshot on your Instagram stories and tag me so I'll know you loved this episode. Then come hop into our Facebook group to find your people and have some like-minded support throughout your week. Also, I'd love it if you'd head to YouTube and subscribe to my channel. You can find links for all of these things in the show notes. I'm so thankful for you, and I look forward to hanging out again with you right here next week.